Before we begin, please hit that like button, share, and subscribe for more. Thanks for being part of the story. About 15 years ago, I landed a job as a truck driver for a transport company. Not long after I started, I was assigned deliveries to various provinces in the lower northeastern region. Around that time, the entire country was hit by severe flooding. It was monsoon season, but this time it hit particularly hard. Many roads were submerged and numerous bridges had been washed away, making transportation extremely difficult. One day, I was assigned to deliver a shipment to one of the flood-stricken provinces. Because of the road conditions, a few local drivers suggested an alternate route, one I had never taken before. I had just moved to the area, so I wasn't familiar with the roads at all. Fortunately, I wasn't traveling alone. For this trip, I was paired with a regular company driver, someone far more experienced. Since I was still new, my main role was to observe the route, assist when backing up, or guide from the outside if we got into tight spots. But before we even left the company yard, there was a problem. My co-driver arrived at the company, but he was in bad shape. He showed up clearly intoxicated, as if he'd been drinking all night and day. He could barely stand straight, let alone drive. Since he couldn't drive in that condition, I had to take the wheel myself, for the first time doing a long-haul run for the company. We set off around 1 a.m., and at first, everything seemed fine. The roads were dark and wet, but manageable. But not long into the drive, my co-driver turned to me and said he really needed to pee. He asked if we could stop somewhere. Driving a big, heavy truck, it wasn't like we could pull over just anywhere, but I kept an eye out for a suitable place, and after a short while, I spotted a large open clearing by the roadside, flat and safe enough to pull over. I pulled over and let my co-driver get out to relieve himself. Since we had already stopped, I figured I might as well go too. For some privacy, we went in opposite directions. He walked toward the back of the truck, and I went to the front. We each stood in our spots, taking care of business. But then, I noticed something strange. My co-driver, who was at the back of the truck, started acting oddly. He was pacing back and forth in the grass, kicking around like he was looking for something. Then it looked like he found something. He bent down, picked it up, and placed it into the storage compartment at the back of the truck. At first, I didn't think much of it. He was drunk and acting silly. Drunk people do all sorts of crazy things. After stashing whatever it was, my co-driver walked back toward the middle of the truck. I glanced over at him again, and that's when I froze. Suddenly, there was a woman standing right next to him. Startled, I quickly zipped up and stared. Where had she come from? I had made sure no one was around before starting my business, and more disturbingly, what was she doing out here in the middle of the night alone? She was wearing shorts and a cropped tank top. My co-driver and the woman were chatting and laughing like old friends, but something wasn't right. My eyes widened when I noticed her shirt was stained with blood. And then I saw something even more terrifying. She had no legs below the knees. There was nothing. A cold wave of fear rushed over me. My heart pounded. I stepped back and ducked behind the front of the truck. I cautiously peeked out again, and I could still see him and the woman laughing and chatting as if nothing was wrong. I couldn't understand it. How could I see the blood and the missing legs, but my co-driver couldn't? I took another look, and just like that, she was gone, vanished into the dark, yet my co-driver was still standing there, smiling, flirting, and gesturing, as if she were still right there beside him, deep in conversation. From my perspective, however, he was completely alone, talking to himself. Panic surged through me. I bolted toward my co-driver, grabbed his arm, and shouted for him to hurry up and get back in the truck. He had a confused look on his face, like he had no idea what was going on, but he climbed into the truck without asking any questions. Even after getting in, he was still waving with the door wide open, as if calling for that woman to get in too and join us. I felt chills crawl all over my body. I shouted at him to go lie down in the back and get some rest. Then I slammed the door shut and sped off. My adrenaline was still at its peak. After driving for a while, I started to calm down. My grip on the wheel relaxed, and my fear began to fade as I drove through the quiet night. But then, in the beam of the headlights, I saw a man standing by the roadside. He held a flashlight, and behind him was a sedan. with an emergency triangle placed behind it. Thinking he might need help, I pulled over a short distance from his car. I rolled down the window and asked if everything was okay. The man walked over and explained that he had been heading home but got sleepy, so he pulled over to rest. When he woke up and tried to start the car again, it wouldn't start. I offered to take a look. When I got out of the truck, I noticed the car looked pretty new, and I wondered, if it was such a new car, what could have gone wrong? A woman was sitting in the passenger seat, and judging by how they interacted, I figured they were a couple. We popped the hood and checked the battery terminals. We both poked around the engine but couldn't find anything wrong. I told him to try starting it again. The moment he turned the key, the engine started right up. The couple exchanged baffled glances, clearly unsure of what had just happened, but they didn't question it. They just seemed relieved the car had started. The man thanked me several times, then drove away. Since I was already stopped, I figured I might as well take a bathroom break before continuing the journey. I scanned the area, nothing but endless rice fields. Facing the field, I stood in front of the truck and relieved myself. But then, a voice carried by the wind called out,
"Have you seen my legs?"
I quickly turned left and right, searching for the source of the voice, but there was no one, just the dark road and the vast rice field. Thinking I'd misheard, I continued relieving myself, but just as I was zipping up, I heard it again.
"Have you seen my legs?"
Startled, I turned to the left, and what I saw made my whole body go cold. It was that woman. The same one who had been talking to my co-driver just hours earlier. She was now floating past the side of the truck. As she drifted through the beam of the side lamp, I could see her clearly. Her entire body was covered in blood. She floated closer and asked again,
"Have you seen my legs?"
Panic overtook me. I scrambled up the truck's steps, desperate to get inside. The truck sits high, so it takes several steps to climb in. As I was halfway up, I heard the voice again. Only this time, it was much, much closer. So close, it felt like it was right next to me.
"Have you seen my legs?"
Instinctively, I looked down, and what I saw made my blood freeze. She was right there, just beneath my feet, under the steps. Her eyes were staring straight up at me. In sheer terror, I flung myself into the truck, slammed the door shut, pulled the curtains closed, and sat there trembling. It felt like I had lost my mind. After that, everything went blank. The next thing I knew, my phone was ringing. It was a call from the central office. They wanted to know why my truck had been idling for so long. One of them even asked if I was sleeping, probably checking the vehicle through their tracking system. Still disoriented, I answered the call but didn't mention what had actually happened. Telling them I saw a ghost would only make me sound crazy, and worse, unfit to drive. So I just said I'd pulled over to rest. The dispatcher reminded me that once I was ready, I needed to get moving, because the customer was asking about the delivery. I got the truck moving again and kept driving until I reached a gas station around 6 a.m. When we arrived, I got out, washed my face, and tried to clear my head. That's when my co-driver stirred awake. He rubbed his eyes, looked around, and asked,
"Hey, did you see that woman last night? I was holding her all night, but now I don't know where she went."
I was stunned. In a trembling voice, I told him, "The woman you saw last night, she wasn't a real person. That was a ghost." I then recounted everything I'd experienced. He listened silently at first, unsure whether to believe me, but as I explained further, his expression changed. It was all starting to make sense to him, too. Then he revealed something that shook me even more. Last night, he had invited that woman into the truck, telling her to ride along with us and that we'd drop her off on the way back. That's when it all made sense. That's how she got into the truck. My co-driver had invited her in. After we finished talking, we switched places. My co-driver took the wheel while I sat in the passenger seat, still trying to process everything. When we arrived at the destination, I got out to check the back of the truck as they unloaded. While inspecting the equipment, something caught my eye. Tucked away in the storage compartment at the back was a pair of white sneakers, decorated with a pattern, completely covered in dried blood. Then I remembered. Back when we first stopped to relieve ourselves, I saw my co-driver pick something up and toss it in the back of the truck. It was those sneakers. I picked them up and asked, "Why did you bring these into the truck?" but he looked confused. He had no idea what I was talking about. He didn't even remember picking them up. Was he too drunk to remember? Or had he been haunted? That day, after finishing the job, we decided to drive back along the same route we had taken and return the shoes to the exact spot where he had picked them up, hoping that the ghostly woman wouldn't follow us anymore. But the horror didn't end there. After that night, strange things kept happening with that truck. Every time we drove it, something would happen. Most often, it would get rear-ended. Once, the crash was so bad that someone died. Eventually, the company pulled the truck from regular use and parked it in a corner of the lot, away from the other vehicles. It was used only as a backup. But strange things kept happening. Night shift security guards often reported seeing a woman walking around that truck over and over again. The last I heard, the company got rid of the truck. I don't know where it ended up, or if the new owner is experiencing the same fate. Nobody knows who that woman was, where she came from, or what she wanted. But I still wonder if her spirit is out there, still looking for her missing legs.
Have you seen my legs?